Hello, dear friends. There is no stopping on this. The declassification and disclosure of secret documents from government agencies gives us a surprise every day, and the information what appears is so much that it is difficult to process and summarize, even for those of us who are used to it. Opinion article: How to transcend time and space, with a technique called the gateway experience. It was used for espionage purposes during the Cold War. TikTok users discovered the report. It was written by Lieutenant Colonel Wayne McDonnell. Gateway Experience program was designed in 1983 by the Army. The technique uses sound tapes to manipulate brainwaves. The job is to synchronize brainwaves to alter consciousness. Its goal is to physically escape from the constraints of space and time. It exposes three techniques: hypnosis, transcendental meditation, and biofeedback. The classified file of the analysis and evaluation of the gateway process. The link is in the box of commentaries. Let's start. TikTok users have uncovered a puzzling CIA report from nearly 4 decades ago that describes the agency's beliefs that humans can leave their physical body, transcend space and time, by reaching an alternate state of consciousness using low-frequency sounds and a relaxation technique called the gateway experience. The technique uses sound tapes to manipulate brain waves to create an altered state of consciousness. Practical uses of this technique include manifesting goals, converting energy to heal one's own body, and even traveling through space and time, according to the report. Although documentation on the Gateway Experience programs was declassified nearly 2 decades ago, it has only recently gained prominence on social media. In recent days, TikTok users have taken to study intriguing CIA documents dating back to the Cold War era and dealing with controversial research which attempted to demonstrate whether humans can practically transcend space and time using advanced mental techniques. Report. The report of the so-called Gateway Experience program was written in 1983 by U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Wayne McDonnell and declassified in 2003, but remained unnoticed for almost 2 decades until some TikTokers brought it back to light, even seeking to test the techniques described therein. Although it's unclear how the document began to gain recognition on social media, some of the most popular videos were posted by blogger Abby Carey as early as January 11th. Gateway Experience is a training program that was intended to help synchronize brainwaves between the left and right hemispheres, thus altering consciousness and even physically escaping the constraints of space and time. The text assures that this is real research within a scientific framework. Directed by McDonnell, the program emerged at a time when U.S. intelligence agencies were very interested in various fields of psychic research due to fears that the Soviet Union was conducting similar studies that could be used for espionage purposes during the Cold War. The original idea was conceived by Robert Monroe, founder of the Monroe Institute, probably the most famous in the study of human consciousness and extrasensory experiences. In 1975, Monroe filed the first of several patents on audio techniques designed to stimulate brain functions until the left and right hemisphere became synchronized in a state called hemisync, which means hemispheric synchronization, reports Bice. Description. McDonnell described the gateway experience as a training system designed to enhance strength, focus, and coherence of the amplitude and frequency of brainwave output between the left and right hemispheres to alter consciousness, moving it outside the physical sphere to ultimately escape even the constraints of time and space. In simpler terms, gateway experience uses sound times to manipulate brain waves with the goal of creating an altered state of consciousness in which a person can interact with the non-physical aspects of reality. Practical uses of the technique, according to the Zaya report, include manifesting goals, converting energy to heal one's own body, and even traveling throughout space and time to access new information. McDonnell's report concluded that gateway experience is indeed plausible in terms of physical science and could have practical uses in intelligence, but that more research was needed to expose its preliminary findings. The report was widely classified by the Zaya in the year 2003 and allegedly went unnoticed. Nearly 2 decades later, gateway experience is receiving renewed attention after piquing the interest of TikTok users. Commissioned. McDonnell was commissioned to explore the gateway experience in the 1980s, at a time when US intelligence agencies were deeply interested in various forms of psychic research. Zaya records suggest that this fascination was driven in part by the belief that the Soviet Union was conducting its own research into whether psychokinesis and extrasensory perception that could be used for espionage purposes during the Cold War. More specifically, the Gateway Project was based on a broader curiosity about out-of-body experiences. That term was coined by a broadcasting executive named Robert Monroe, who began studies the effects of sound on human consciousness in the 50s. In 1975, Monroe's company, Monroe Industries, filed patents for an audio technique called hemisync, short for hemispheric synchronization. Monroe claimed that the technique could create an altered state of consciousness by using sound waves to synchronize the output of brain waves in the left and right hemispheres of the brain. Those sound waves, manufactured by the Monroe Institute, are still available today on Amazon, very expensive by the way, each sound CD. McDonnell's team of researchers, which included famed bioengineer Itzhak Bentock, used hemisync tapes and other relaxation techniques in their evaluation of the gateway experience. McDonnell opened his report with a brief letter describing how he used objective scientific methods to understand and explore the gateway experience with the goal of determining practical uses for the SIA. He seemed to acknowledge the fact that his target audience might be wary of its findings and stresses that understanding them will require not only left hemisphere logic but also right hemisphere intuition. McDonnell's report included a diagram of what is known as the cosmic egg, a representation of how individual consciousness interacts with a so-called universal hologram. In the first section after the cover letter, McDonnell lays out three main consciousness-altering techniques: hypnosis, transcendental meditation, and biofeedback, with the purpose of explaining how they compare to the gateway experience. McDonnell states that understanding these three techniques can help lay the foundation for achieving the gateway experience. McDonnell then explains how ME-sync is achieved with what he calls frequency following response, meaning that if a subject hears a sound produced at a frequency that emulates one associated with human brain functioning, the brain will attempt to mimic the same frequency by adjusting its output. The brain operates at the beta frequency when a person is fully awake and at the theta frequency when sleeping. With frequency following response, researchers can trick the brain into switching from beta to theta by introducing an external theta frequency. Science. That's another issue. Scientists develop methods to communicate during sleep. Researchers of Northwestern University have discovered a new phenomenon they describe as interactive dreams, in which sleeping participants could communicate and answer questions. This research opens up the possibility of training our ability to dream and help us to solve problems, achieve goals, or overcome problems. Pentagon says test findings on UFO wreckage could change our lives forever. More revelation is coming to the facts after the Pentagon admitted it has been holding on to and testing the remains of several unidentified flying object crashes. A Freedom of Information Act FOIA, later obtained by the Sun, reveals that the researcher Anthony Bragalia wrote to Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, asking for details about UFO material, to which it was revealed that the Pentagon is in possession of many different types. Another news. US Navy has patents on technology that will design the fabric of reality. The US Navy's UFO patents sound like something out of a science fiction novel. According to patents filed by the Navy, work is underway on a compact fusion reactor that could power cities, an engine that works using inertial mass reduction, and an aerospace submarine hybrid craft. Dubbed the UFO patents, the War Zone portal reported that the Navy had to build prototypes of some of the more outlandish technologies to prove they worked. Economy. Money can buy happiness relatively. Researchers found that earning more than $75,000 a year can actually make you happier. A complicated study by Nobel Prize-winning economists explained that money increases happiness, but that the amount plateaued at $75,000 a year. Earning less than that increased sadness. However, earning more did not contribute to a sense of well-being either. The obvious appeal of this idea is that money can buy happiness in the sense that it can satisfy basic needs and stability. But it doesn't go much farther than that, meaning that billionaires like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are much richer but no more happier than the rest of us. Excuse me. Chocolate makers sued for child slavery. A human rights group has filed a lawsuit against some of the biggest names in the chocolate industry for allegedly trafficking minors across national borders to harvest cocoa. 8 million men claim they were victims of this child slave labor scheme, which involved them being recruited under false pretenses, trafficked to Ivory Coast, and forced to work on cocoa farmers without pay, travel documents, or any knowledge of when they might return home. This, unfortunately, this is very common. Infant slavery. One special job. The candidate must spend 5 nights in a variety of environments and describe his or her experience in order to evaluate the quality of sleep. The Sleep Standards website, which is dedicated to providing information about healthy sleep and products that help sleep, has opened a vacancy that offers $2,000 for spending 5 nights in different places. The purpose of this job is to help the poor learn more about the influence of environmental factors on sleep quality. Those interested can apply until March 30. After completing a form with their data and attaching a video in which they explain why they are the perfect candidate for the task. But there are a series of conditions. Among them, they must be over 18 years old and reside in the United States. Queen Elizabeth II gets billions of pounds from oil companies. The Queen's estate manager and the UK Treasury stand to reap billions of pounds from leasing offshore waters to companies such as BP, British Petroleum, Total, and others betting on wind power. The Crown estate, owned by the British monarch, covers millions of acres of land, coastline, and seabed across the UK and off its coast. It was recently announced that it had selected preferred bidders in a massive auction for rights to develop 6 offshore wind projects. Politics. Kim Jong-un renounces communism in North Korea. A new 5-year plan for North Korea was approved during the recently held 8th Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea. The new program implies the renunciation of the economic reforms that Pyongyang embraced a decade ago and that were defined by some experts as a step towards capitalism. The Soviets armed 108 aircraft for nuclear war during NATO drills in 1983. Since 2019, the US has invested billions in developing new ground-launched missile systems, such as those that helped spark a nuclear war in November 1983, but were later banned as too dangerous to peace. Documents recently released by the State Department reveal the extent of which Soviet leaders believed that an ultra-realistic and provocative NATO war game in late 1983 was a cover for a nuclear first strike against the Soviet Union. Forbidden to think. Critical thinking is dangerous, in quotes, according to a Times editorial urging readers to research sources with Wikipedia, lest they fall into trap set by evil conspiracy theorists and adapt into questioning the paper's ironclad truths. South America. Banana bread, a food revolution in Colombia. Colombian bread is made with foreign wheat flour, but what many change, but what may change thanks to the tests of Colombian researcher with flour extracted from banana, one of the typical products of the country. The bread is still not as spongy as wheat bread, but it turned out to be more nutritious and economical. 3 fishermen beat a sea lion to death in Argentina, and the images provoke outrage. A witness who was with his family on the beach denounced the facts, and a 71-year-old man has already been arrested. A sea lion, which had been caught in a trolling net, died after being hit several times by 3 fishermen in the Valdez Peninsula, Chubut province, southern Argentina. The event occurred last Wednesday and was reported by a witness who witnessed the moment in which the men beat the animal to death. Alarm over scandalous prices of basic products on Easter Island. Bread, eggs and milk up to 5 times their value. Inhabitants of the Chilean Easter Island, an island territory located in the South Pacific, more than 3,600 kilometers away from the mainland coast, in the middle of nothing, I add, denounce a scandalous increase in the price of basic products. The only air bridge has had to readjust its fares, which today has a direct impact on price increases. Religions fear robots. The human fascination with hyper-realistic machines is older than most modern religions, including Christianity. The first robot in history, a steam-powered mechanical pigeon, was created around 350 before Christ by Archytas of Tarentum, a mathematically obsessed disciple of Pythagoras. Different religions also describe inanimate humanoid figures, usually made of clay, that magically come to life for the sake of gods or men. For example, the Jewish book of Talmud described the golem, an anthropomorphic clay creature, which was created by Rabbi Judah Loev in medieval Prague to protect the city's Jewish community. This story is related by Gustav Meinrich in his novel The Golem. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends, and be well.